All right, today we got the iPhone 13 versus the iPhone 17. Is this worth the upgrade? Let's go ahead and find out. We're gonna check out the speed, cameras, hardware, everything, pretty much. And let's just go ahead and start off with the actual hardware here. So as far as the weight, they feel pretty much the same. You have 174 grams on the 13, and then we have 177 grams on the 17. And the 17 is gonna be just slightly a little bit taller because it does have a bigger display this year. Also, another thing that you will notice is, of course, the camera design is a little bit different. But we do have a matte finish versus the glossy finish, so you will never really get fingerprints on the matte finish, which is something that I like. Pretty big major change is actually going to be switching to Type C. So you do have Type C port on the iPhone 17. Now you do have the camera control button here, so if you press that, we can bring up the camera. We can, flick through the different modes, and we also can use this as the Apple Visual Intelligence. So we just like take a picture of this, and we scan it. So if you're out and you see something, you want to take a picture, maybe of a restaurant, look at the menu or something like that. It'll do that. So it kind of works like a circle to search. And then also you have a action button over here, which is essentially a universal button. So you can program this to pretty much whatever you want. So as we know on the 13, that is, just the mute switch. So as far as the hardware, you do have some, kind of cool features, I guess, with the hardware. They're both IP68 dust and water resistant. And I think that's pretty much it for the hardware. And also, I will say that the 17 is not as squared off on the sides. So for me, it just feels a little bit more comfortable to hold. It doesn't feel like as kind of like boxy on the sides here. All right, so what is the display upgrade here? Is it a much better panel? And I think this display upgrade is pretty decent here, actually. It's something that a lot of people have wanted, the 120 hertz. So let's just talk about the 13 specs real quick. So it's a 6.1 inch display, and then we do have the much older looking notch right here versus the dynamic island, so you get a more modern look on the 17. But it's an XDR OLED panel. It's 1200 nits peak brightness. It is 1170 by 2532, and it's 460 for the PPI with the ceramic shield glass. This also has an 86% screen to body ratio, so that's also another thing you'll notice is that the bezels are a lot slimmer on the 17 because it has a 90.1% screen to body ratio. All right, as far as the panel in the 13, I think it still looks great. It's a 60 hertz panel, so that is kind of like the biggest difference here because the iPhone 17 has an 120 hertz panel and its LTPO display. It is also an XDR OLED panel. It goes up to 3000 nits peak brightness, so in direct sunlight the iPhone 17 is a lot more visible than the 13. It is also a slightly bigger panel here at 6.3 inches. It's a 1206 by 2622 resolution, 460 for the PPI. And I think kind of one of the most exciting things is this ceramic shield too is looking like it's a much more durable glass from looking at the scratch test and stuff like that. So the glass is actually a pretty decent upgrade here. You won't easily get like those little scratches and stuff like that. But I would say the biggest upgrade here is honestly going to be the 120 hertz. It does make a big difference when you're scrolling and swiping and stuff like that. It does make a difference. It just everything looks a lot smoother. That's why I said once you try 120 hertz, it's going to be really hard to go back to a 60 hertz display because you will notice, the animations don't look as nice on 60 hertz and the scrolling when you're in social media and stuff like that, it just doesn't look as nice. So it's one thing that, I'm happy to see come to these base model phones, but I think this is a pretty solid upgrade. You got LTPO, you got slimmer bezels, the dynamic island, you can kind of interact with it. It's not super useful, but you can kind of interact with it like changing music and it kind of pops up like that. And so it's kind of, it's okay. But yeah, the 120 hertz is the big upgrade here. And the brighter display, slimmer bezels. And so I think this is overall a solid upgrade for the most part. Now, as far as the quality of the panel goes, they pretty much look the same color-wise. It's really hard to tell the difference. Like there's a slight color difference. The 17 looks a little bit more vibrant, but yeah, I would say the display upgrade is pretty solid here. Let's talk about these specs here. So we're running iOS 26 on both of these phones. We do have the Apple A19 on the 17 here, and then we have 256 gigs of internal storage on the base model. Now it's 8 gigs of RAM, and then on the iPhone 13 we do have the Apple A15 chip, 128 gigs and 4 gigs of RAM. So multitasking will be a lot better. It'll keep applications open more on the iPhone 17. As you guys can see, the difference in single core, and we hop over to the multi-core, we also see a bit of a difference here as well. So overall, the benchmarks looking pretty good, and we can see that we're getting a pretty nice jump in performance in 3D Mark for our graphics here at 28.5 frames versus 14 frames. So all right, so if we start launching applications here, let's see if the 13 can keep up with the 17. So that was not bad at all. Okay, and again, the main thing you'll notice, let's try that again. Main thing you'll notice is the animations. And the 17 wobbles a lot. It's also something to note. Yeah, the 13 is still able to keep up with this iOS 26 update. So I would say for more of a power user, that's where you'll really notice a difference. People who do video editing, people who do longer gaming sessions, playing games, Genshin, Call of Duty, PUBG, the 17 is not going to heat up as much. And if we just keep going here, you'll start to notice that the 13, it can start to look a little bit jittery with animations. The more applications it holds in the background, like right there. Again, not bad, but it's something that you just notice with older phones, especially that have low RAM, and iOS 26 is so heavy with animations. But I'm pretty surprised. It's actually keeping up pretty well. Yeah, right there you can see a little jittery. But I mean, this is still, the 13 is still more than usable. So I would say if you're not like a power user, you don't necessarily have to upgrade here. That was probably the biggest difference we've seen so far in terms of load time. Okay. I mean, yeah, this is not bad. I'm gonna skip Angry Birds because it takes forever to load up. Yeah, guys, so again, the biggest difference is animations, guys. Yeah, the 13, it just doesn't look as anywhere near as smooth, man. Let's actually check the multitask and see if the 13 kicked any of these applications out. Okay, that's pretty good. Again there, a little jitter. This is pretty good, man. I can't even lie. Okay, we got, oh no, I didn't reload. Okay, we got one reload. Another reload. Yeah, alright, so again, you can see the difference between that 8 gigs of RAM and 4 gigs of RAM. But yeah, I would say generally the 17 is definitely, it's a little bit smoother for sure, especially when you start to load up a lot more stuff. The 13 is still pretty smooth though, even if you start loading up stuff. And let's see, and the 13 is way hotter too, so that's also another thing. So I would say this is actually a pretty good upgrade for power users. And as far as gamers go, something to note, because we have the 120 hertz display, you will be, or you should be able to see games optimized for the iPhone 17, where you could run PUBG at 120 frames. Right now, since the phone just came out, it's not optimized yet. This should be able to do 120 frames, but it still has a 60 frame setting. So that is also another benefit. Hopefully the developers update these games for the base models, but you'll start seeing games being able to run at 120 frames. And like I said, the heating is less. So if you are a gamer, and it's also not going to hit the battery as aggressive, like on the 13, you play at one match, you lose a lot of battery life, right? So that is basically the difference in performance. So I would say it depends on what type of user you are. All right, we're at max volume, and let's check out the speakers. We'll start with the 13. All right, so you immediately can hear the improvement. The 17 has a lot more bass, and it's basically, they both sound pretty much the same. It's just twice as loud. Yeah, there's a lot more clarity with the bass. You can hear the lower bass notes. You can hear the kicks, really, harder on the 17. The 13 is not bad. It's not like it sounds bad. Yeah, it basically sounds twice as loud. So I think that's a pretty solid speaker improvement there. Face ID has not changed on both. It works just as fine, as they both feel exactly the same. Now, what is going to be different with the software? So there's actually, a few things different. But the biggest thing is going to be the AI stuff, right? Apple Intelligence, like I showed you with the visual intelligence, you take a picture of something, and then also you can, tell Apple Intelligence to take you to the nearest Walmart or whatever, right? You can tell it to make a notes for you. It's supposed to be smarter. It works. It's okay. They have stuff like Genmoji as well. It's something that I don't necessarily really use, like Object Eraser. You have stuff like that. You have your Genmoji. You can create stuff with the AI. And let's see. How much does the iPhone 17 Pro Max cost? 1 terabyte. Yeah, so it's stuff like this where it doesn't quite. That's why I never really use it, because instead of just telling me the price, it just pulls up a link. So that's why I don't really use it. I don't think the Apple Intelligence is as good as like the Gemini. And I hate to, bring this up, but like, hold on. I got my S24 right here. Now watch this. How much does the iPhone 17 Pro Max 1 terabyte cost?
The iPhone 17 Pro Max with 1 terabyte of storage costs $1,599.
Yeah, so you see why I never really use it, because for some reason it's just not smart. And I'm not trying to say that it's horrible. You can do like stuff with it, but I don't know. It's not that smart to me. So let's talk about the camera improvements. I'm going to show you guys these side-by-side stills and video. So we actually have a pretty nice improvement here in terms of camera specification. We have a dual camera setup on the 13, 12 megapixel standard, 12 megapixel ultra wide, 4K 60 video, 12 megapixel selfie, 4K 60. The 17 has dual camera, 48 megapixel standard, 48 megapixel ultra wide. So the max zoom has been improved. We go from 5 times to 10 times as well. It shoots in 4K 60, 18 megapixel selfie camera that shoots in 4K 60 as well. A cool thing here with the camera is that we can take pictures and photos in landscape mode now. And then you also have for video a dual capture. So if you're like a content creator, you can capture yourself and then the object or someone else or whatever. So it's pretty cool. But let's check out the photos. All right, so is the battery life better? The plain answer is yes. It's a lot better. It's not. It's not even that I have like bad battery health on the. Let's actually see what it is. Oh, we have 100%. What? I think maybe this one got swapped out. I can't remember if I swapped it out. But yeah, we have 100% battery health on the 13. But yeah, so the battery life on the 13, it's not bad, but it's a noticeable difference on the 17. Like the battery lasts way longer. I would say you can get a full day of battery life even if you're a bit of a heavier user on the 17. And this is thanks to the bigger battery life, or bigger battery here, 3,692 milliamps versus the 3,240 milliamps on the 13. We also have MagSafe on both, so we have, wireless charging on here, and it has been improved. We go from 15 watts on the 13 to 25 watts. And yeah, your screen on time is better, and then also your standby time is better. So when you're not using the phone, it's a lot better. So yeah, I think the battery has been improved a lot. And just check out any kind of battery drain test, because it depends on how you use your phone, right? So that's why I say you will get different results based on how you use the phone. If you're somebody who's gaming a lot on your phone, your screen on time is gonna look way different from somebody who just watches YouTube and scrolls TikTok. All right, so that is pretty much it. So I think the upgrade is fine if you do want to make this upgrade. I think there's enough here to kind of justify it, but I would say don't make the upgrade if you weren't impressed with the cameras, and if you're not impressed with like the speed, and you don't really see yourself gaming or doing like video editing, intense stuff like that. Because the 13 still works. The iOS 26 makes it feel a lot newer and fresher. And yeah, the battery life is improved. That's why I said the 17 it's not a bad upgrade this year. But let me know what you guys think.